You and DeLorean guys should compare best in show trophies. And then butt raunch.
Can you hear this? Can you hear this? Can you hear this?
1994 Toyota Supra Turbo, do you have your dick out yet? Tomorrow's Christmas. Did you immaculately shave your taint so your balls bounce quietly as to satisfy my temperament? Because life without class isn't life worth living. 1994 4th Gen Supra Turbo. The narrative surrounding 4th Gens is moving away from, hey, that's a cool 90s sports car and it's fast, to, wow, that's a really expensive car. What do you do for a living? In 2018 and moving now into 2019, can you enjoy a 4th Gen Supra for the sports car it is without the $50,000 bring-a-trailer auction sale hanging over your head? I couldn't. I wanted to rev this 2J twin-turbo all day, but I kept thinking, ugh, Chris is doing me a huge favor. Let me drive this. Don't break it, don't scratch it, and hold in your farts. And all of that goes against what Toyota wanted the 4th Gen Supra to be. The Supra joined up with the Viper for a co-op match of pressing dual middle fingers in the Corvette C4's self-satisfied fiberglass face. Your time's done, old man. We make more power than you, and the kids like us more. And I can still get hard with a thought. Hot dicks, 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 hot dicks. Merry Christmas. Hot dicks, 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 hot dicks. Hot dicks, 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 hot The 4th Gen Supra was 310 pounds lighter than the 3rd Gen, and it's 3 inches shorter. Stock, the 2-Gen 3-liter twin-turbo inline-6 made 320 horsepower crank and propelled the 4th Gen to 60 miles an hour in 5.1 seconds. I'm sorry, I have to stop. To 60 miles an hour in 5.1 seconds. Chris also has a Blitz intake, HKS blow-off valve, catalytic converter delete, 3-inch turbo downpipe by Megan's Racing, and a tumescent TRT exhaust. Although he never had it on a dyno, similar setups with this stuff make about 400 horsepower. Mark IVs didn't come with boost gauges and never vented their boost pressure to atmosphere. So Chris put on an aftermarket boost gauge where the clock used to be. 2Js naturally build boost late, even with twin turbos, which are supposed to spool faster than a big single. But even with that, you don't get full forced induction pull until 5,000 RPM, as opposed to Toyota's 3S GTE Gen 4 turbo transverse 4-cylinder, which spooled by like 2 or 2,100 RPM. They're great. The extra displacement of a 3-liter inline-6 makes for easy in-town driving when you're off boost. But when the turbos are just lazily windmilling along, not doing anything, a 4th Gen Supra feels like, and bear with me on this, a V6 Mustang. And mileage is about the same too, 18 city, 23 highway. But once those turbos spool, your power feels like it doubles, and the speedometer needle jumps up 15 miles an hour immediately, and the tach looks like it's about to go into the red immediately, and I get scared and shift up, and now I'm out of the power band again. And then the boost builds again, and then the boost builds again, and I'm pre-coming, and then I'm going 100 miles an hour already. So where do you go from there? Back off an accordion up to triple digits again? Do you keep accelerating past the ton over and over? You're not going to carve back roads because this is a $50,000 collector car. Unless you're so baller and so emotionally vacant, you can abuse a 4th gen Supra. And in order to carve with a Super Turbo, you have to be enough of a narcissist to weather the internet storm which will descend upon you and your DMs after you reduce the number of 4th gen turbos in this world by 1 because you had to race along the tail of the dragon. 2 kinds of people own 4th gen Supras. Number 1, investors, and number 2, investors who openly do steroids in Gold's Gym. Chris's 4th gen, and notice you can say 4th gen and people automatically know you're talking about a Toyota Supra. You know, that just happens. People just know that. Anyway, Chris has TN springs which lower the car about 1 inch, and he's running Kumo tires at 235/45/17 in the front and 275/40/17 in the rear. And he's still running the stock side mount intercooler. The headlights up here in the front are from the 1997-1998 model year, and same for the taillights. I gotta be real, this is not a luxurious sports car. These seats are thin. There's not much lower lumbar support, and the dash in here is, even though there's lots of information, there's lots of negative space going on in here. And it's just a thin piece of just regular Toyota plastic. I mean, we're used to, in like sports cars today, seeing Alcantara leather and all that, but no, you just kind of have hard plastic. The privacy shelf pulley thing, supposed to hide your stuff under the rear hatch, that's floppy, and the floor of the sort of cargo area is just plastic and cardboard. The glove box door is clacky and weak, and the speakers are old and cracked and tinny and ugh. And this is a $50,000 sports car. Why is this a $60,000 agreed upon nostalgia worth $70,000? Why is the market peaking for the Mark IV Supra? Well, the 208th rule of acquisition states that sometimes the only thing more dangerous than a question is an answer. So let's go to the 23rd rule of acquisition. Nothing is more important than your health, except your money. The Toyota Supra was first produced as the Celica Supra, debuting for the 1979 model year, taking the liftback design of the Celica and both widening it and elongating it. Of course, the only reason anybody really gave a damn about the Supra when it debuted was the 2.6-liter inline-6, which is the first engine on a Toyota to offer electronic fuel injection. The Celica Supra would go through any number of styling and engineering changes until 1986, when it was separated from the Celica branding and spun off into its own model, in time with the release of the A70 Supra. Toyota would produce the Supra over 4 generations, from 1978 to 2002. The first 3 generations were manufactured at the Toyota's Tara plant in Japan, while the 4th gen moved production to the Motomaki plant in, and no, I'm not making this up, Toyota City, Japan. As the Supra looked to survive on its own name, Toyota put the A80 program into effect. By mid-1990, Toyota would begin building test versions of the Mark IV on the A70 bodies, with the first A80 prototypes being built in 1991. Yet it wouldn't be until 1993 when mass production would begin, sharing a platform with the Lexus SC. In addition to the more aggressive, sportier engine, Toyota added a 6-speed GetRag Toyota V160 gearbox on all turbos, in opposition to the 5-speed manual W58 transmission on the naturally aspirated models. Weirdly enough, Toyota didn't actually badge the turbos as turbos until 1997 and 1998, so it's not as if you'll know it's a turbo until you get into the guts of the thing, or until you take it out on the road and see if it lives up to the fanboy awe that inspires 5-figure bring-a-trailer prices. Because there's no way this thing holds anywhere near the value it does without the Fast and the Furious franchise. We have to go here. It's now part of the car's history. It's part of the history to the point where people love this car almost as much for what it was in that fantasy medium than for what it is in a vacuum. Not that it's going to stop people from putting the Mark IV Supra on a pedestal, and maybe they're right to. I mean, Road and Track called the Supra Turbo's acceleration, handling, and braking close to the best we've ever seen, regardless of cost. Car enthusiasts viewed it as a potential Corvette killer, and auto journalists assumed the position for their new sports coupe overlord. Of the 94 Supra, Car and Driver boldly stated, "The Lexus feels like a luxury car, albeit an exceptionally agile one, and the Supra feels like an athlete." And adding, because of its exceptional composure, the Supra has none of the nervous and jerky temperament associated with high-performance cars. What if you define luxury from the standpoint of driving excellence, a car that responds correctly, beautifully, rewarding your inputs with no luxo frou-frou to distance you from the business of driving? Now we're talking about the Supra. For crying out loud, go to Edmunds right now and look up 1994 Toyota Supra reviews, and you'll find one loving tongue bath after another. You could go to prison and not have your asshole licked this clean. Who needs religion when you have a Mark IV Supra? Your god is a touring car that people take out on racetracks, even though it doesn't take corners as good as a turbo Miata. But your god is an episode of Shark Tank with 4 wheels and a chassis. It's an investment opportunity that you don't intend to share with anybody, because what you really just want is the recognition of having something worth investing in. It's the Mark IV Supra. And yeah, you know pre-cum still has some sperm in it, but you're still going in raw, because your pullout game is trash anyway. I paid $80,000 for a Mark IV Supra, and that means we're trying until I get a son.
Can you hear this? 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 Testing the mic to see if it's working.